Welcome in, everybody. We're so happy that you're here. Our topic today is called Currency of Conversation, Shift Your Sales Mindset. And I'm going to share with you that in addition to mastering and practicing the four currencies of conversation, conversation, you will walk away knowing the three-step formula for a successful sales call every time. Boy, I could use that. That would be great. I'm excited to learn that. How to stop self-sabotage before the call has even started, and the number one mistake we make when in sales conversations, and what to do about it. Really can't wait for that. So I'm just going to do a quick intro here. You may see all three of us on screen right now. So yeah, we're all waving. I'm Jamie Scoltetti. I'm hosting, and my company is Upscale Your Business, and I'm a social media marketing strategist, those who don't know me. And I specialize in helping professional coaches and consultants to systematize their business, maximize visibility, and attract ideal clients. Mark is my partner in my journey, and his company is called Release Dynamics, and Mark Canty is his name. Mark is a coach for coaches. His company, Release Dynamics, is dedicated to helping coaches and consultants release their full potential by applying practical business.
I'm here. I was just looking on Facebook Live, just so a few more people know what we're doing here today.
I'm hearing something in the background. I'm not sure whose that is, but okay, there we go. And our host, or our presenter today, our guest presenter, is Liz Dederer. Okay, thank you.
I respond. It doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. So her company is Selling with Service, and as founder and CEO of Selling with Service and creator of the Sales School for Entrepreneurs, Liz has strategized with the sales growth from 300,000 to 1.2 million in 6 months, taught individual clients to increase close rates from 0% to 80%, and coached entrepreneurs to their first 5-figure months. Liz has been featured on the International Women and Money Summit and is currently only her second speaking tour on the 4 Currencies of Conversation, empowering women sales teams and business owners to close clients quickly, all while selling with service. And before we get started, just wanted to mention, do stay until the end. We have special offers that we're all going to provide to you. And also we want you to join our group. And it's called Upscale Success Strategies. And if you join us, you'll have access to all of our past and our future webinars, our live implementation calls. We do those every month where we diagnose and solve problems around your business. We also provide you great bonus resources like worksheets, guidebooks, and some valuable free services. So again, stay till the end, but I now want to turn this over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Liz load up her slides.
Yay.
And, very happy to have you here, Liz, and everybody joining us. And by the way, please post any questions or comments in the chat. I will be fielding those. And Mark and I are actually going to turn off our cameras, though we're still here. We want you to be focused on Liz and her presentation.
Awesome. And I can't see anything except for my screen that hopefully you guys are seeing well. I've got seeing as well. I've got the Selling with Service logo up. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Groovy. I'm doing something right. That's a good start. Listen, I teach sales, not technology. So that's where we are. But yeah, I mean, definitely stay till the end, guys, because if they have recordings like this, which I know that they do, I'm saying if, with the recordings that they have access, you'll have access to in the back end. Like, I know what I'm bringing to the table today. I'm giving you everything I've got. So I can only imagine and I know the vetting process I went through to get here too. So I can only imagine the quality and caliber of the content that's in the background. So if you found your way here, definitely by luck or by chance, stay and hear more about what they have to say, because I'm giving you everything today and they're going to give you the same in the background too. So that's all I got to say about that. So we'll keep it moving because I want to be mindful of the time. I can talk about this stuff for a day and a half, but ain't nobody got time for that. So we're going to do our best to keep it to an hour. But there is a strong possibility we'll go over because I just get really jazzed and passionate about this. And if you're in business, you kind of should be getting jazzed and passionate about sales and money too. And if you're not, then you totally need to stay on the whole time. So today, what we're going to be talking about, just like Jamie was sharing, taking it a step further, really unlocking taboos about money so that you can spark your sales and empower confidence. Like at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to is we're not taught to speak confidently and competently around and about money. In fact, we're taught the opposite. So today you're actually going to be taught how to speak confidently and competently around and about money, as it relates to your business and as it relates to sales conversations. So, getting started, and for you guys that are in the comments and listening to the recording, say this in the comments, and for those of you catching the recording, say this to yourself. But there's that moment that's going to happen and multiple times during this conversation today, this presentation today, that is going to be the light bulb moment, that's going to be the slap on the forehead, could have had a V8 kind of moment. And we just like to call those around here holy shifts. So I love doing this in a room live because this is where I get everyone to go the 1, 2, 3, holy shift, enunciate the F. That's all that I ask if you're saying it out loud, enunciate the F. But the holy shift moment is really that moment where it's like, ah, didn't think of it like that. Oh my gosh, that makes it so much easier. Oh, that's so different and easier and lighter, whatever that is for you. But in the rooms, we ask people to say it audibly because when you acknowledge it, what it does is it liberates others to step into that point of acknowledgement as well, that they might have a little bit more resistance around. And to yourself, if you're here live, pop it in the comments so that others can benefit from your moment of enlightenment. And then, as you're sitting there, on the train listening to this going to work, just be the weirdo and say it out loud. Enjoy yourself. So that's kind of just the housekeeping rules. Is just participate and play and drop that hashtag holy shift. Before we go any further, I have to drop a disclaimer. I am the founder and CEO of Selling with Service. I have run the sales school for entrepreneurs, and I am not a salesperson. I grew up in retail. I grew up working in stores. From there, I went into the corporate side. I wrote corporate training programs. You can find me on LinkedIn and get the whole, background there. And yeah, retail, sales, whatever, but I played with clothes and shoes. Like that's what I thought. I've never considered myself an actual salesperson. What I have done is I've considered myself a go-getter, very driven, and just have a love of people and understanding nuances of conversations and psychology and that sort of thing. And I think it's the fact that I never considered myself, and I still don't consider myself that kind of hard charging, salesperson, is the benefit and kind of how selling with service was born and brought about is is really that I look at things and I teach things not from the hard dollar amount, the numbers. You've got to make 100 phone calls a day. Like, who wants to do that? I'd rather chew glass. I don't look at it through that lens. And this is what makes it really relatable for people is I look at it through the lens like you're a human, you have to do business with another human. Let's try to figure out how two humans can have a conversation in the most genuine, authentic, less weird, like just normal kind of a way. We tell stories. We tell stories about ourselves. We tell stories about other people, about situations and circumstances. And one of the stories around, being a salesperson, which we'll get into a little bit more in a couple slides, is that, it's a bad thing. So it's okay to not identify as a salesperson. I don't. But we're going to just kind of unpack this a little bit more. But speaking of telling stories, I found this meme on the internet, so it has to be true. Just bear with me a moment as I go through this little story here, but it's a funny one about how we tell stories. So this woman goes through this drive-through and she ordered, she's having a bad day. Like she's not having the best time of her life and orders, her whatever at the drive-through, drives up to the window, doesn't really make eye contact, just kind of pays the guy whatever, gets her card back or her change or something, drives up to the next window, gets her sandwich or whatever it is, and starts driving away. And she looks down at it and sees this, and she's like, whoa, pump the brakes, pulls into the parking lot, jumps out of the car with her sandwich, goes into the restaurant, the drive through place, walks up to the counter, slams it down on the counter, demands to speak to the manager. And she's like, I need to know what this is all about. Who wrote this on here? Why is this written on here? Like she's beside herself. And he looks at her like so calm. And he's like, ma'am, you ordered a bacon, lettuce, tomato with cheese. Holy shift. See what I did there? So this is one of the many situations that we go through in life, and a funny example of where we've created this story in our head that prevents us from taking the action that's really in our highest and best interest. And instead, we have this story in our head that actually triggers this unfortunate chain and series of events. In this situation, the story in her head is that she's a bitch, right? I'll be mindful on this recording not to drop too many F bombs. I'm getting better at that in my old age. But she was mindful. She was having a bad day. She was having these negative experiences. She was conscious of the fact that she hadn't made eye contact and wasn't being her normal happy self, and then created a story that's instantly that they're, out to get her. So what you think about, you bring about, and what you manifest is what presents in front of you. And we just need to be aware of these stories that we're telling ourselves. Another interesting story that we tell ourselves, and in the live presentations, in the live audiences, this is where it starts to get a little auctiony. I ask everyone, that inbox number, oh, the glory of having one in there. What is the number in your inbox? And I'd just like everyone for a moment to think about it. If you're on live, drop it in the chat. And if you're not, think about it, as you're catching this in the replay. Think about the number that's in your inbox. And typically, what I hear from people are the first few that pipe up are like 50, 100, 0. There's always the one, it's the accountant. It's always 0, or somebody in that data space, which is phenomenal. That's what you want. Somebody who's really detail oriented. But generally speaking, in the audiences that I'm speaking to, it's like then they get going once the numbers start getting higher. It's like 50, 100, 1,000, 10,000. And I'm like, do we have 20? And it just keeps going, like an insane amount of emails in our inboxes, because we're just in this information saturation, age and stage of business and life, where there's just emails coming at you rapid fire, right? And it's just the nature of the inbox. So I want to ask a second question, just kind of put that on the shelf for a second. Think about, do you use email to correspond with your clients or your prospects? The answer, hands down, is yes, obviously, right? Of course, we all use email to correspond with existing clients. And of course, we use it for prospecting, reaching out, following up with business cards from people we met at a networking event, doing cold outreach, LinkedIn messaging, and then take it to the inbox when they, to the email when they accept and you have their email, like whatever. We're all using email, and then they don't respond to you, right? They don't respond to your email. And then we do what? We tell a story. And that story goes a little something like this: they're too busy. They're not interested. They can't afford me. They don't like me. They don't like it. They don't like me. The first thing that always happens is when I ask this question live, people always say it's because they don't like me. Of course, obviously, they're sitting there laughing at you. They just printed out your email and it's going on a billboard. Like, no, that's not the case. It's not that they don't like you. It's not that they can't afford it. But side note, don't put an offer in a first email. We'll get to that. It's not that they're not interested. It's that they're too busy. They're actually too busy. You've got so many emails going on. Why would you think that they're going to have the, ability to respond to every email? This takes us to our holy shift number 1. Email is for confirmation, not for conversation, right? What you're trying to do when you're sending these emails that people don't respond to is you try to have a dialogue in a monologue kind of a vehicle, right? We'll work on an email, we'll send it, we'll have a colleague evaluate it, we'll work on an email, our outreach campaign with our sales coach or our sales manager or our business coach or our marketing manager to put together the perfect outreach email. And then we send it, and then it's crickets. It's because you're trying to have a conversation, a dialogue in a monologue kind of a lane. It just doesn't work that way. Email is for confirmation, not for conversation. You can use email as a way to open up and crack a door to get them on the phone, but your goal should always be, as a human who's in business, doing business with other humans, your goal should always be to get them on the phone to have a conversation. Otherwise, you're trying to crack a code, overcome objections in your brain that you think they might possibly have. You're trying to have this whole dialogue scenario in your head, and you're just going to create this sequence of stories that is going to spiral you faster than something that spirals really fast. That's all I got for that. The other side of the coin that we're trying to do, knowing that we're in sales, knowing that we're in business, is ultimately what we're trying to do is collapse the timeline. Right? We're just trying to get things done bigger, better, faster, stronger. And by using email as a way to get someone on the phone, you have in fact collapsed the timeline, because instead of sending an email to Sally, waiting a week, then following up, hopefully she responds, then you respond to her response, and then you're going back and forth. 6 months later, you're still ping ponging the same email change. Like, pick up the phone and you're done in 2 minutes. Easy peasy, collapse the timeline. Why do we get so weird about doing this? I'll tell. Great question, Liz. I'll tell you. The reason why we get so weird about doing this is for a number of reasons. Hold on before I die. It's for a number of reasons. One is, like I was just saying, we're conditioned to think that we have to have this, monologue correspondence in this email, frame, and that we can't pick up the phone, or that it's weird or rude or a thousand things going on there. The other thing is that we are trying to court them. We're trying to court a prospect. We're trying to court this person to come into our world. And then we think that we have to be someone through the courting process, and then once they become a client, it's like, going through the dating process, it's like, oh, finally, now we're married, now I can take my Spanx off and actually show them what kind of rolls I have underneath here, right? Like, we can actually let our hair down, and I can chew with my mouth open and like inhale my food like I normally do. I don't have to pretend like I'm a lady and cut up my food all nice, right? We can like let it out, because we get weird about this kind of like courting, prospecting energy. And the reality is, make your life a lot easier, make their life a lot easier. Holy shift number two, adopt the mindset early and often that they're already a client. If from the point of initial business conversation, you have a little business talk, they have a little business talk, and you agree that you kind of maybe like each other as people, hashtag they're already a client. Right? It's at that moment that you're like, you're already a client of mine. I don't know when we're going to have an official play date. I don't know when we're going to carve out time to do work together. I don't know when we're going to exchange that hard currency of money. We'll get to the currencies later on. I don't necessarily know when that actual play date is going to happen, but the whole everything behind selling with service is that they're already a client. You show up and you serve and you support. There will be an actual time in your client process, in your sales process, where you say, I can't help you anymore unless we're actually doing work together. Like, let's pick on somebody in the financial space. I can't give you any more advice unless I actually see your numbers. So let's set up a time, and my fee for that is, right? Like, there is going to come a point in time when you actually have to, be compensated and secure them as a legit client. But adopting the mindset early and often removes all those barriers around, oh, I'm afraid they're not going to like me, and all of those kind of stories that we told ourselves in Holy Shift number one. So I hope this is making sense. I know that I've got some holy shifts out there for sure. So let's keep it moving. Why does any of this matter? Right? Like, what's going on here that any of this really matters? I definitely honed in a lot of points, but I want to expand now. We've gone a little deep. I want to take it a little broad from where we are. Going to get a little woo a few times here, because ultimately, all of these things that we beliefs are at the core of our actions, right? Just like that example that I gave you about the drive through and the BLT with cheese. Her belief was that she was in a bad mood, so everyone's going to think she's a bitch or whatever. And that's going to impact her thoughts, it's going to impact her words, and ultimately her actions. Whatever we believe is what you think about, you bring about, right? And we're taught to believe, when it comes to sales, that sales is a numbers game. And we're taught to believe that salespeople are pushy. And we're taught to believe that sales is a four-letter word. Technically, it's five, but like, I get what they're saying, right? I know that we've never been taught sales or money, like, officially. I have seen this cripple people in business, and I know and believe that it does not have to be this hard. So the question then presents, how do you shift your sales mindset? There's a little bit of science. It's not actually science, but this is where I get to use like a brain picture and I kind of feel like a scientist. And when I watch like Netflix documentaries, I can write it off as a text because I'm studying, I'm doing research. So here's a little science behind what we're talking about, like what's going on in the brain. Okay. We basically operate from two core energies, right? Marianne Williamson talks about it in A Return to Love as a, as her expansion of A Course in Miracles. We basically operate from two core energies, fear and love, right? And for purposes of this conversation, we're really looking at fear and excitement, okay? And Tony Robbins talks about this and, all of his things that he says, change your state and the physical, etc. We pretty much are operating from these two core energies. And we will have an experience, and our body has 5 seconds. Mel Robbins talks about this. And see, I'm referencing all these names because this isn't just my idea. This is a lot of data research, thought leaders presenting this. I'm just kind of packaging it so that it's digestible today. Mel Robbins talks about the 5 second rule. And she jokes that if she had known it was going to be a thing, she would have named it after something other than what we do with the food that falls on the floor. But I digress. So the 5 second rule that Mel Robbins talks about is essentially saying that we have 5 seconds from the point that the thought enters our brain to interpret that response and then take an action before like all the fear takes over. We have 5 seconds to just kind of get into that action mode. What that looks like in terms of the sales and money conversation and growing your business and upscaling your business really looks like the thought comes into the brain. We have 5 seconds to decide, is this going to be fear? Is this going to be excitement? And think about the physical when that thought comes into when the thing happens. The physical response is actually the same. Is that fear or is that excitement? Now you have a moment to interpret that. Fear is going to say what could go wrong. Excitement is going to say what could go right. It's up to you to decide and to choose. Let's expand on this for a moment. Fear says what could go wrong. Fear says what could go wrong about you, about sales, right? It should be about me, but you know what I mean. I'm saying you, but there we go. What could go wrong? What about me? Sales, right? Excitement says, what could go right? I'm thinking about the other person. Now we're in the service lane. Okay. This is the crux of everything we're talking about is that we have these moments every day, multiple times a day, when we get to choose what story we're going to tell ourselves. Are we going to be in fear, thinking about ourselves, thinking about sales, our own outcome, our own attachment to outcome, our own desired want of an experience? Or are we going to be in excitement, thinking about what could go right for them, the other human that's involved in this equation, and being in total service energy? That's the crux. That's what it all comes down to. And just like I was saying in the Holy Shift number 2, they're already a client. When you adopt that mindset early and often, you are 100% in service energy. It's all about them. When you're motivated by the desire to sell, you're only looking out for yourself. When you're motivated by the desire to serve, you're looking out for others. So again, how do we continue to shift our sales mindset? We're cracking away at it. I can feel it releasing for some of you. Let's keep this moving. Expanding on what we talked about before, we're shifting our beliefs, right? Beliefs are at the core of our thoughts, which predicate our words, which then inspire our actions. How we shift all of this is that we ask a different question. When we ask a different question, the quality of our lives ultimately is contingent upon the quality of the questions that we're asking. And when you ask a different question, let's take it here. When you ask different versions of the same question, you're going to ultimately get different versions of the same response. But when you ask different questions, which is a very, very challenging thing to do. When you ask a completely different set of questions, you will ultimately get a completely different set of answers and responses. How do you do this? I like to start really simply because like there's a lot of big concepts here and we have to land it in the WTF. What's the function of this information? Like what are you actually going to do differently? And a really simple question to start when you feel yourself going into that fear mode, notice it and ask yourself the question, what if? That's all you have to do. That is the only, write that down. That's your writer downer. That's your nugget. That's the only question you really need to be asking is what if? And then your brain wants to try to figure out what if what, right? Like we have to fill in the blank here. So let's ask this one. What if closing clients was as simple as shifting your sales mindset? What if it was? Well, now we want to figure out, okay, what if it was? What does that look like? Well, great question. I'll tell you. What that looks like is redefining what an actual sale is. We talked about it before that it's a dirty word. It's you're bad, you're pushy, you're a numbers person, you're all this other stuff. You're a used car salesman with a bad comb over and short pants from the 80s trying to sell me a used Pinto. Like it's bad. Nobody grows up saying they want to be a salesperson, but guess what? Look at us now. We are. So what if closing clients, growing your business, getting more sales was as simple as shifting your mindset? That means we have to shift our mindset around what a sale is. Love me some acronyms, so I made one. A sale is supporting abundance literally everywhere. That's a holy shift for you, and that's totally a writer downer. It's supporting abundance literally everywhere. Let's look at it like this. When I close a sale, I've made money. I'm also supporting abundance literally everywhere. Well, let's play down the money road. I close a sale, I make money. There is heavy statistical data that supports the fact that small business owners support their local economies at such a higher and greater percentage than traditional employees. So by virtue of me being a small business owner, when I close a sale, I'm immediately giving it right back to my local economy because I naturally want to support other small business owners and they do the same. We are supporting abundance literally everywhere in our local economy, supporting other small business owners. It's a total pay it forward thing. The other thing that we're doing is when I close a client, they are now supported, right? They know that this itching problem of not having clarity in their business, not knowing how to attract clients, not knowing an outreach strategy, not knowing what to say when they get somebody on the phone, all of those challenges that they've been having that are creating doubts and fears of unworthiness and all these horrible spiral things that we do to ourselves, they are now supported knowing that that is no longer going to be a thing. Their energy is lifted. They're feeling better about themselves. They can get out there in the world with greater lightness and ease and joy. They're not going to scream at their kids as much. Like we're supporting abundance literally everywhere. I just want to flip through real quick to make sure nope, I don't have this on a future slide. I get all these ideas and I'm never sure. There was one presentation I did, just quick side note, one presentation I did, I had the same quote like 5 times. I definitely didn't proofread my slides, but I was like, I guess I really like this one. And it goes a little something like this. I just had to make sure. I think I've taken it out of all of the slides because I know I'm going to say it at some point. When we are in, again, we're going to get a little woo here. When we're in the physical world, in which we live and operate in, time, money, that sort of space. When we think of expansion, we think of life in terms of like a pizza, that if I take a slice, that means that there's less for everyone else. But when we're thinking in terms of redefining what a sale is, supporting abundance literally everywhere, we have to take it into the metaphysical, into the spiritual realm, not the metaphysical, sorry. We have to take it into the spiritual realm where we're really looking at when you step into expanding and supporting abundance, there is no pizza, right? There is no, when you take a slice, you're taking less for everyone. When you take a slice, what you're doing is showing everyone else that there are slices for them to take. When you step into self actualization and all of your abundance within yourself, what you're doing is you are liberating the idea that they can do the same for them. You are expanding the realm of possibility, not shrinking it. This is supporting abundance literally everywhere. When you grow into more of yourself, when you become more successful, when you are constantly going on Facebook saying, closed another client, helping this client today, helping that client today, when you take a group shot with, selfie with all your clients and your business is just growing energetically and otherwise, you are expanding the realm of possibilities for others around you. It's a really important thing to do. Think of it this way, just really practically. Like, are we worse off because Oprah's a billionaire? No, she has totally stepped into her power and expanded the realm of possibility for all of us. Like, yeah, you can be an anchor or you can own the whole station. Like, create your own station, create your own network, right? I mean, like, completely expanded the realm of possibilities for others. Completely. Kylie Jenner, totally love the Kardashians, total guilty pleasure. Are we worse off because she's the youngest billionaire out there? Absolutely not. She has completely transformed an entire generation of expansiveness. That's what we're talking about here today, is really getting underneath the taboos about money. And we're going to shift gears, oh, right about now. Be jealous of my graphics, guys. You too can have these from clip art. Let's talk about the intersection of sales and money, because little hinges swing big doors. Sales, we typically think of as like the closing conversation. I have to make so many calls a day, the tactical, the actual, the practical. Money is actually the mindset, the woo that we're talking about. The acquisition, where the client comes into your world, where all of these things to come together, this is the currency of conversation. This is the flow. This is the intentional conversation around and about money for the purposes of helping somebody else in their business, in their life, you and your business, right? A symbiotic relationship that's financially beneficial and of mutual benefit to everybody involved. With that, something really interesting happens, and we're all guilty of it because, as I've said before, and I'll say it 1,000 times again, because I want to just acknowledge the shame, the guilt, the whatever that we all have around this. Um, we have never been taught money. In fact, we're taught the opposite, that money is taboo, icky, rude, all this other stuff. And that's going to show up in our business. It shows up like this. It's the number one mistake that we all make in conversations around and about money. It's that we make financial decisions for other people subconsciously, early and often, unfortunately, from our own financial experience and positioning. Specifically, this will show up for women, primary market, not to say it doesn't show up for men. I'm going to speak very clearly about what I know 100%. It shows up for women in that most women will not ask someone to invest more than they have ever invested themselves or more than they currently have, which is like, what an interesting way to get out of that, right? How are you going to get out of the situation you're in if you're not going to ask for more the money that you actually need? We all make this mistake, and it's not about beating yourself up about it. And I'm sorry to say, it's not even that I'm going to present you with a full-fledged solution on what to do around and about this. Trust me, when I uncrack that, you guys are going to be the first to know. What I am going to say is I'm going to write you a huge permission slip right now just to notice it, be consciously aware of it. And I'm going to give you some tools in the next few minutes about what you can do to recognize this a little bit more. But one thing that comes up is that when we're stepping in, before we get into the kind of practicals of the conversation, let's talk about conversation. Because what happens is we think as salespeople, business professionals, entrepreneurs, what have you, that we have to say so much. I mean, obviously, yes, today I have to because I'm doing a presentation, but like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in your sales conversations when you're out networking, that you need to be the one who just says so much that you're bringing all these ideas to the table, and you have to have your pitch down and you have to have your slide deck and blah, 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 all of this other stuff. I'll give you one simple solution around this. One simple solution around all of this, and then we're going to get into more detailed approach to really, give you some tacticals. But one simple solution: when you talk less, you close more. Just going to hold that for a second. I'm going to hydrate and I'm going to hold that. Talk less, close more. Well, what do I do, Liz? Show up in a conversation, just sit there in silence and have a staring contest? Yeah, send me a selfie on how that one ends. That's not what I'm saying. I always interpret like, what is the smartass in the crowd going to say? Because that's always me, like the heckler in the back of the room. So I just like to have fun with myself there. So that's all. I'm just having a conversation with myself. Talk less, close more. No, it's not about sitting there and having a staring contest with your prospect. That would be really weird. But Liz told me to do it. No, I didn't. What you're going to do instead is you're going to unlock success in sales calls. Love my graphic, guys. Be jealous. This is the three-step formula that we were talking about at the beginning that I promised you guys are going to get. This is the three-step formula, how to have a successful sales conversation. It's just so simply, easily. I created this as a way to protect myself from myself because we all I have this strong proclivity just to give it all away. And that's awesome because then people will have these conversations with you and you're like, oh my God, you were so helpful and amazing. And then like Verizon's like, where's my money? And you're like, but Sally thought I was really nice. It doesn't work. We still have to sell and bring in the business. So how you do this in sales conversations is really simple. And by the way, just a side note for life, I have used this in the legal system in custody court. I have used this in the education system in navigating support for my child. I have used this in name a situation. I have used this formula and it works like a charm every single time. 80, 15, 5. You guys can read. 80% of any conversation, and this is just like, I mean, there's formulas out there. A lot of people teach like 50-50, who's listening, who's talking, 60-40, 70-30, whatever. But mine is three parts because I really feel like they're missing a very critical component. So 80% of any conversation, any sales conversation, and by sales conversation, I mean you have an idea that you want to move forward and you want the other person to buy in and respond to it. 80% of any conversation is the other person talking, AKA you listening. Totally should be 80%. And for my really detailed people, this is not like the order that it goes in. It's not the first 80% of the conversation that they're like fire hosing you. Like, that's not how it works. These are the ingredients. So 80% of the conversation is the other person talking. 15% of any conversation, sales conversation, is this is where it gets a little different. It's you asking questions. If Alex Trebek wouldn't allow it on Jeopardy, it does not leave your mouth, right? There's a few exceptions to this, and those are things like, tell me more about that, help me understand that better. Can you say that differently? Can you expand on that? That's really interesting. Keep talking. Like those sort of things, technically, they're not questions, and technically, Alex Trebek wouldn't allow it. But in the world of sales, or sentence expanders. And as long as you're fueling that other 80%, it's totally game. You're totally fine. Only 5% of any conversation is where I say permission to speak freely is granted. Like only 5% of any conversation that you're having with somebody should be you ending in complete sentences. And I break that down even a little bit further. Like half of that should be a little bit of introduction at the beginning just to like do niceties and reaffirm that you're in the right place. And then even a little bit less of that should be extending the invitation towards the end of the conversation. But notice I said invitation and not pitch. It's a subtlety. So that's really how you protect yourself from yourself in sales conversations, as you extract the information by doing the 80-15-5. And that's, I mean, write that down, tattoo it on your hand, like keep it close, practice it. And one way you can really practice it is that as soon as you're going to say something, just protect yourself with some pocket nuggets like, that's really interesting. Keep telling me more about that. Just get them to keep talking while you think about what your next question is going to be. Over time, if we work together, if you work with somebody else on this, or if you just start doing your own sales script, like you'll know what those pocket questions are that you need to ask. But as you're transitioning from that knee jerk of wanting to talk into asking questions, just use a sentence expander. That's so interesting. Tell me more. Right? Works in dating too, especially when the guy's like boring as, dry bread. It happens. So, anywho, moving right along here to holy shift number 3. I want you to remember this because a lot of people have a hard time stepping into this because they're so committed to, yeah, but I've got to have the answer. I need to know the words. Holy shift number 3 is the expert asks, the amateur answers. What I mean by this is we've all gone to that networking event where, the really young, fresh out of college guy that just signed up for the financial services firm or wherever he is, he's so gung ho, or the technology company or whatever. He's so excited to be a salesperson and he's really financially motivated by that huge $120,000 potential commission first year kind of a thing, because he wants to, whatever. So he comes up to you at the networking event, starts talking, oh, you're in business. Great. Well, my company, did you know that we're actually able to solve all the world's problems? And we can, they mean really well, but they just start going into pitch mode. And listen, we can poke fun at that guy all we want, but the honest thing is, if we haven't done that ourselves, we're not networking enough. We should all look back at some cringe-worthy, networking performance and be like, I want to call those people and apologize, but I would never do that. So I'm just going to bless and release and send them some good juju because man, was I embarrassing at that networking event. Like, if you're not having those experiences, you're not out there talking to enough people, having enough conversations, you should totally be face palming yourself over an experience 3 years ago, at least. So we've all done this. The amateur is the one who's new and excited and just wants to tell everybody about their new essential oils or whatever it is. And they just want to answer all the questions and say all the things. The expert, however, knows I need to ask some more questions before I can really understand what's actually going on, because the problem as it presents itself is different than the root cause. And if an expert is going to solve a problem, they're not going to solve the hemorrhaging. Like, yeah, you'll put a band-aid on to stop the bleeding, but you also need to ask the question, like, where did this cut come from? Because if I bandage you up, are you just going to go out there and do the same thing again? Right? Is it internal bleeding? Is it external? Like, the expert knows to ask the questions. And the formula I just gave you is a super phenomenal way for you to protect yourself from yourself and really stay in that expert lane. And this is the time I always hear somebody say, especially when I'm presenting to like technology crowds, very specific, like high tech kind of things, or in the financial services sector when there's a lot of details and nuances to overcome. Yeah, but we need to explain what we sell. Yes, and, improv style. There does absolutely, you can't sell somebody something that they don't know what it is. There does need to be at some point a conversation about the details and the nuances. That can be done in a lot of different ways. And that can be, I mean, there's so many different ways to do that. And I'm not going to get into all the solutions because that really comes down to looking at your unique product and service, your actual sales flow and pipeline. At what point are you having what conversation? Sometimes it's a matter of you're having the explanatory, the explanation conversation before you're having the sales conversation. And the explanation conversation is oftentimes the introduction once they become a client. So sometimes it's just a reordering. But the other thing is, oh, how did this get there? Got Darth Vader on my slide. What is this all about? Oh, that's Darth Vader's rarely photographed wife, Ella. Elevator. Something we get so concerned about is pitching in elevators. We have to have all the words because of our elevator pitch, right? We don't. Stop pitching in elevators. Stop being weird. Like, we don't have to do that. You don't have to have the words. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to say all the things. You don't have to know it all, is what I'm saying. The expert is the one who asks the questions. Permission to be human and connect with another human is totally, totally, totally granted. Again, why does any of this matter? Because we get so tripped up in our head about trying to get it right, trying to get the words right, and it does not matter. Connection is what counts. And at the end of the day, holy shift number 4, done is always better than perfect. Done is always better than perfect. 100% of the time, done is better than perfect, right? You are not going to send an accidental email to somebody telling them off, right? And if you are, then you should be saying those words in a Word document, not an email form with their name and the to, right? Like, don't do that. If you've got to get the words out, get the words out. But like, you're not going to like totally screw up beyond repair. And if you do, there's 7 billion people in the world. I'm sure you can find another prospect. And if you can't, you might need to rethink your target audience, your list building skills, get some support there, that sort of thing. But like, done is better than perfect. And perfect, by the way, yeah, but I'm a perfectionist. Perfection, by the way, is actually I was having this debate earlier with somebody, so I'm going to touch on it lightly because it was really, really sparky, is a nice way to say how that conversation went. But perfectionism is actually a byproduct of being mentally lazy and arrogant. I just said that. Perfectionism is when we think that it has to get perfect before we can move forward because we're so arrogant to think that anybody really notices. And the reality is, nobody does. That networking event where you had spinach in your teeth and said all the wrong things, and you were the expert you were the amateur in the room, just throwing up verbally on everybody. Nobody remembers that, or maybe they do, but like nobody remembers it was you. And if they do, so what? It was one person who's definitely got some trauma to process. It's all good. Nobody's focusing on you that much. Done is better than perfect because clarity comes through action, not through thought. Remember where we started off, the storytelling, how quickly things can spiral when left to our own devices in our own head. Pick up the phone, have a conversation with somebody. When you're on the phone and it's ringing, words have to come out of your mouth, whether they pick up the phone and you're like, oh crap, that really happened. Now I got a person I got to talk to. You're going to say something, right? They're going to be awkward. You're going to be awkward. It's okay. It's not a 10-minute awkward conversation. It's a couple seconds of like weirdness and awkwardness, and then you're okay, right? And I know this is a hard thing for people to do. So that's why I've created a completely free conversationcreationchallenge.com. It's a Facebook group. We have a occasional, about once a quarter or so, I might up the frequency of it, but about once a quarter or so we hold this conversation creation challenge. All the recordings are available for access in the Facebook group when you join. Again, totally free. Just go over to conversationcreationchallenge.com or go on Facebook and type in conversation creation challenge. But this is challenging you to create conversations, and I give you tactical, practical, actual ways to do that with humans, where to find people, how to use LinkedIn to do that, how to do effective outreach, using email to crack the door open for a conversation because we don't have everyone's phone number. Yeah, but what do I do when I get this person on the phone? Voicemail strategies, like all of those kind of weirdnesses that you're all up in your head about. It's all done in the conversation creation challenge. And the reason I do this for free, guys, is because I just want you to stop being weird. I want you to have more confidence in yourself and your ability and getting out there and connecting and talking to people. And ultimately, it's to collapse the timeline. I want you guys to stop thinking that you have to use email for conversation. Stop trying to have these monologues when really you need to have dialogue. Just collapse the timeline and make it happen. As promised, we're here to talk about money. So let's talk about money. You can see where this is all starting to tie in together. So, one of the things I want to address before we really dive into the money stuff, I had to lay the groundwork in sales so you can see the patterns, the behaviors, the practical actual of where it's showing up. And now we're going to go really woo woo from here. But the reality is, how you do money is how you do everything. And that's a really interesting phrase. I get it. But just stay with me here. Money is the lifeblood of any business, like it or not. You don't have money, you don't have a business, right? But the way you get money into your business is through conversations around and about money, just like we talked about, these pesky little sales conversations, right? That's what we've been talking about. I don't want to continue to talk about money until we really break it down about what is money. What is this thing that we're actually talking about? And think to yourself as you're watching the recording and you're catching that, or pop it in the comments, like, what is money to you? And I'll share with you some of the things that have come up as I'm doing this in a variety of live training rooms, whether it's with a corporate bank audience, whether it's with entrepreneurs, whether it's with tech sales professionals. Like, it doesn't matter. Again, we've never been taught to speak confidently and competently around and about money, and we all have these preconceived thoughts and realities around it. So things will come up like money is evil, money is the root of all evil, money is bad, it's taboo, it's icky, money is great, money is freedom. It runs the gamut. And the reality is, no one's right. And the reality is, no one is wrong. Beautiful thing. Money is whatever you believe it is. Because what did we say about beliefs before? It's that's what inspires your thoughts, your actions, etc., right? Your conversations. That's your belief. I'm not here to change that because we've only got a little bit of time left. I don't have you guys held captive in a room for 7 days in a, blaring heat or whatever I would need to do to beat it out of you. I don't even know. I don't even want to try, to be honest. I'm not here to change your belief. I'm here to hold space, to have this really interesting conversation. And by the way, kudos to you for showing up and staying on this long, because this is like, a lot happening in this conversation, presentation. You're not wrong, whatever you believe about money. I'm just here for you to hold space for you to consider what you believe money is, Not a question, not a conversation you're having on a daily basis, I'm sure, unless you're totally in the space. And if you are, I want to connect with you for a couple reasons. Um, and if you're not, I want to connect with you too as well, right? Like it's really just about sitting in and settling what is my relationship with money? What do I believe money is? And just notice it and own it. That's it. We're going to play out some other beliefs here. Some people believe, I don't need to make a lot of money. I'm not in it for the money. Without my clients, I have no business. What would I even do with $1 million? As long as I can help people, I'll be okay, right? Those are a lot of beliefs around money. A lot of other beliefs around money are that time is money. My time is valuable. I'm going to charge for it. Without money, I have no business. I can't wait till I'm a millionaire. Saving money is essential to living a good life. As you probably heard, we're looking at two very opposite belief systems here, right? One is not wrong and one is not right. They're just different sides of the same exact thing. And it's very, very important that you know which side you're on. You know your relationship with money, because remember what I said before? What's the number one mistake that we make in sales conversations? We make financial decisions for other people from our own financial positioning and experience. Ah, holy shift. Do you see it coming together? Right? So if your financial positioning is one that you're very financially motivated and you believe time is money, what that could show up as in a sales conversation is a premature discount, right? You're extending a discount to someone because you think that's their objection, because that would be your objection, but you haven't necessarily listened to hear that they might be what I refer to as soft currency. Before I get any further along, let's walk through what that looks like. Walk through some other beliefs, first of all. Some other beliefs around money are old adages that are very familiar, right? All of these belief systems that are really ingrained in us. People say things like, good things come to those who wait. Patience is a virtue. You have to work hard for your money. Anything worth having is hard to come by. Takes money to make money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Technically, it does because it's still kind of paper. Marriage is hard work. Sounds inviting. Good friends are hard to find. They're not. I've got a ton of them, right? These are just old adages that are out there that we kind of operate by. These are different currencies of conversation. Did you see them? You don't have to rewind if you're watching the recording. I've got a slide coming up on it. But just notice that just happened. I just showed you 4 currencies of conversation. And if you haven't seen this before, you're probably a little confused right now. This is going to change the game for you in terms of sales conversations. This right here is going to change everything. Remember, I said I've used this in court, in custody. I've used this in the school system. I've used this in name it. I use this. And you about to use this too. Those are simple phrases that we just went through. I'm going to go back a slide. These are simple phrases that we just went through that we hear all the time. These are very, very critical things for you to notice. Let's move forward to the currencies of conversation. I use the acronym TEMP to make it easy to remember. Again, love me some acronyms. Time, energy, money, and people. These are the 4 currencies of conversation. Good things come to those who wait. Patience is a virtue. We're talking about time as the dominant currency. Energy. You have to work hard for your money. Anything worth having is hard to come by. That's energy, experience, education, right? All of those sort of things. Effort. Money takes money to make money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Like the hard currency ones are really easy to identify, time and money. Um, People, marriage is hard work. Good friends are hard to find. Like, notice this. What's more important in a sales conversation? Your language or the language of the other person? Always the language of the other person, right? So, thinking of these 4 currencies of conversation, I like to chunk it down just even a little bit simpler. Like, this is how you hear it, but what you can do, and you've heard me say this a couple times already, is this the difference between hard and soft currency, right? I'm going to make you a little motion sick for a second because there's a slide I want to go back to. Let me just make sure that I need to go back to it. Yeah, there's a few slides I want to go back to. So just here we go. I don't need to make a lot of money. I'm not in it for the money. Without my clients, I have no business. What would I even do with $1 million? As long as I can help people, I'll be okay. Now that you have the currencies under your belt, 100% soft currency. Not wrong. Not wrong at all. Great belief system. Notice it, own it, your soft currency. Time is money. My time is valuable. I'm going to charge for it. Without money, I have no business. I can't wait till I'm a millionaire. Saving money is essential for a good life. Time, money, hard currency. Not right, not wrong. Totally great to have. This is a spreadsheet person. This is an abstract person, right? This is a Salvador Dali. This is a spreadsheet, right? That's what we're working with. It's not wrong. You just need to know what you are, because you need to know, are you speaking your language, or in the 80-15-5 are you listening for the language of the other person, getting yourself out of your own head, making that number one mistake that we make, which is making financial decisions for other people? Are you holding space and listening for their dominant currency? Because what's more important, their language or yours? Always theirs. When Oprah wrapped up her, and we're actually good on time. I thought we were going to go over, but we're actually going to land it. When Oprah wrapped up her show after 20-25 years, I caught an interview with her. You can tell I'm mildly obsessed. I caught an interview with her where she was saying, if I could sum up all the years that I was doing the show and all the interviews that I had with people, what really the biggest take, like what all people, the golden thread that all people have in common, it really would be that people just want to be heard. They want to be validated. They want to know that someone's listening. And you, as a salesperson, entrepreneur, professional, whatever you want to call yourself, I hope now you see that selling is not weird. It's actually really powerful and really sexy. I hope now you can see, with the tools that I've given you through this really comprehensive, albeit fast training, that the 80-15-5 is designed to keep you in that service mindset, that green lane, of allowing the other person to be heard. Showing up, holding space for them to talk. That's how trust is built. That's how relationships develop, when somebody feels that they're heard. Okay? This is everything. I'm going to wrap it up here. I've got one more slide that's kind of a non sequitur, but I was working with a client. We had taken her and her business partner from concept to a 250,000 within 18 months, doing coaching. And the way we work together, we had quarterly strategic planning intensives where we would reconfigure, assess their sales strategy. What do we need to tweak? What's working? What do we need to shift? Whatever. And then, spot coaching in between to kind of continue to support them, really more as a consultant than a coach. And in that work, and then they, had fluid access to me as they needed to in between, of course. But within that kind of framework of how we work together over about 18 months, they were able to grow from 0 to a 250,000. And we were in one of our strategic planning sessions and kind of wrapping up and just kind of shooting the breeze afterwards. And I was like, oh man, they're like, what do you got going on this week? I said, oh, I've got this lunch and learn tomorrow. I've got 10 minutes to teach them something of value. I can't do anything in 10 minutes. So I was like, I'm not going to try to come up with it. So again, 80-15-5, let me ask them. All right, guys, we've grown your business to the $250,000 mark. We were nearing that at the time. If you had to teach someone something based on what I've taught you, what would you tell them in 10 minutes? And they're like, oh, simple. It's really the three things that we take with us that we can directly attribute in addition to the other support. But they said it's three things that I would teach in 10 if I only had 10 minutes that we can directly attribute to what's grown our firm from 0 to a 250,000 in 18 months. And the first is, they're already a client. Adopting the mindset early and often that they're already a client has saved us significant grace, because we're just able to show up and serve. We're unattached to outcomes. We don't care. Like, we just love on them early. We're not afraid to say the thing, and they respect us for it. And it collapses the timeline so much faster. They said the second thing, hands down, 80-15-5. Like, showing up, they're already a client, and then we're just going to ask them questions. We don't have a pitch. We don't have any decks. They love that about us. We just show up as humans, and they're humans, and we're refreshing in their day of like looking at presentations and, hearing pitches and everything else. They're like, we're just humans connecting. And that's really been it. And they said the third thing that I would teach them, if you only had 10 minutes, is this fifth holy shift that I'll share with you today. And then we'll wrap it after this. Book a meeting from a meeting. Book a something from a something. Never leave it open. We're like, I'll get back to you next week. You won't. and they won't. And you're going to go into email spam hell and never hear from them again, right? I'll follow up with you, and we'll circle back, and nah, it's not going to happen. Book a something from a something, book a call from a call, book a meeting from a call, book a call from a meeting. Like, it doesn't matter. Book a text, a time to text to check in. Like, it doesn't matter, but book a something from a something, book a meeting from a meeting, and that will collapse the timeline in addition to everything else that we talked about. So my next step for you is join the Conversation Creation Challenge. That's our meeting from this conversation. That's our something from a something. Let's keep this going. You now have a lot of information about how to approach conversations differently. Your brain is totally wholly shifted right now. So in order for you to continue on this path, because it's all well and good, but then what does the tactical, practical, actual look like? There's a ton of trainings already available within the Facebook group. And again, it's free. Conversation Creation Challenge. There's a ton of trainings in there. One specifically that I think I have pinned at the top of the page because it's the one that most people resonate with is Outreach for Introverts. A ton of trainings in there to really help keep this thinking going, this selling with service mindset and philosophy going, and to really help you collapse the timeline. So that's all I've got to say about that. Final slide is holy shift, obviously. So I'm going to turn the screen sharing off and find my camera. Or you guys did that?
I'm putting on my camera.
Yay!
Bravo!
Oh my God, I'm so close to on time.
Bravo!
Yay!
Good on the time. And I just have to just commend you because I took so much from this, and I just know anybody watching this is going to this is just a revelation all the way around
Awesome.
on so many levels. So thank you so much. Great
Yeah.
job with the presentation. Light, fun, funny, and engaging, and very informative.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liz, I love your sense of humor, and I love the way you build that into your presentation because it makes it so engaging, and it brings the understanding, and it brings the message that you're saying in at a deeper level, I believe. So beautiful job. Many holy shifts there.
Yeah.
This is right away. I mean, I'm thinking of so many clients and people that we've worked with in the past or we're working with now that need to hear this message because it reinforces one of the things we often talk about is the idea of stop selling.
Yeah.
And show up ready to create a relationship, build a relationship. Because what do you want? You want to peddle something? You want to just peddle a good or a service and be done with it and then run out and peddle another one? Or do you want to build a relationship for life where you're constantly working together at a collegial level and at a peer-to-peer level where you're helping and serving each other? So your message really resonated with that.
Yeah, conceptually, most people are in 100% agreement with that. They're like, yeah, that sounds really great. But I think what this training really does is it answers the practicality of like, yeah, but how do I actually do that? Like, what does that actually look like? So I think that what you're saying is, just send this to them, please. Like, here's the steps. Here's what you do.
Yeah. And these are deep-seated, as you brought up beautifully. So many key components. These are deep-seated beliefs that come typically from the time we were born. So they're not things that you just go, oh yeah, okay, I'll now do it this way. It takes time and it takes consistent focus and attention. So we talk about the idea that sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And then now you know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So now it's your responsibility to work on that and get to that level where you know what you know and you consciously and deliberately address it day after day. And the beliefs around money, the beliefs around selling, it's very easy, over and over again. Sound like a broken record. Bring that up with clients where they go, yeah, got it. And then you have a conversation with them, you debrief a presentation. And why were you selling? Oh, yeah, I went there. And it takes work.
In one of my former presentations, I had this, slide with all my cheesy graphics, but I had this one where it's like, we think of sales as either like the used car salesman guy that's like, you got to buy my thing, and no, this Pinto is really great, and that duct tape's supposed to be there, right? Like, there's that guy, Or conversely, what I think most people, what I'm hearing is how they're interpreting the don't be salesy kind of thinking that they embrace. They're like, I don't want to be that used car salesman guy. Then it turns into like the bobblehead conversation of like, that was a really nice 30 minutes of my life that I'll never get back, and it's not going anywhere. There was no call to action. So what this whole training is really all about, and the whole premise of selling with service is saying it doesn't have to be either or, it's an and that's the 80-15-5. Like you can have a really meaningful connection with someone and a really well-intentional conversation and rapport with a really deliberate and strong non-salesy call to action without that bait and switch energy. Like, no, you're really amazing. Want to buy my thing? Like
Yeah.
you can do it in a really human kind of a way.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what people are honest to God. That's what they're craving. They're
Mhm.
craving to know how to do that. And they're certainly craving, how can I be on the receiving end of that? Because people
Yes.
want to buy.
Yeah.
They want to buy things. They want to spend money, but not from somebody who is a slimy, salesy weirdo, who might be the best person on the planet to do the thing. But if they, Lee Iacocca says, if you can have great ideas, but if you can't get them across, your ideas won't get you anywhere.
Yes.
So true.
Yeah.
And I think we get so hung up on like, well, I know my program and I know how it's going to help you. And therefore, and so you kind of like fitting a square peg into a round hole kind of thing, where if you just let them tell you what they need, I'm sure that you can make your program or your package or whatever really work for them, but enlighten them on how.
Yeah.
I think it fits into like your point too about perfection being, I'm not sure how you put it. Was it conceited or arrogant or what was it you?
Mentally lazy and arrogant.
Yeah, mentally lazy and arrogant. And it fits into that too, that concept of when you're so passionate about what you have and your solution, it's lazy and it's arrogant to assume that other people know that automatically.
Right.
And are willing to accept that.
Yeah.
So you need to bring them from where they are to where you are. And you have to do that through building a relationship, through building rapport, through building trust, through having conversation, through understanding where they're at, and then marrying that up so that they can see, oh yeah, I can see how that helps me get to where I want to go. It helps me get what I want, or it helps me solve my problem, or it helps me get out of wherever it is that I'm stuck right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's formulaic, right? I mean, the first like 10 times you're going to have conversations like this that are so different from the way you're probably having conversations. It's going to be really clunky and weird and awkward just because it's different.
Yes.
It is formulaic, and over time you will find your rhythm and flow. And whether you work with me to create your sales script in the Close Clients Quickly system or whatever it is, I don't care, but you will develop a sales script over time because you're going to be asked 80-15-5. There's your framework. You're going to be asking questions throughout the conversation. And then, oh, by the way, pro tip is when you have objections, those get translated as questions for your next conversation. So you can be proactive, not reactive to people, because questions are just, objections are just unasked questions.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, use the 80-15-5, hold them as grown adults that are able to make decisions for themselves. And you're just holding space to navigate to say, you're already a client. Is this going to be a fit for us to have an actual extended play date?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, a couple of questions that came up that I wanted to surface. Jamie, you and I were chatting in the background there, so I may as well just ask them while we're on here. One was, and I'm going to kind of ask this and answer it at the same time, so forgive me. But this piece around money and these deep-seated beliefs around money, and Jamie and I often have this conversation. We have this with colleagues, we have this with clients as well, is that this is where when it comes to belief systems that are inhibiting you and holding you back, this is for everybody on the call, this is where your role comes in as a coach. Many times people can't, most of the time, I would suggest, if not all of the time, we can't get beyond those deep-seated beliefs that are embedded on our own. And we need that assistance. We need somebody to help draw it out, show us the mirror, if you will, or bring that to our attentions, and then help us process through that and release that and develop a new belief that's healthier around that. So whether it's money or sales or what it is. So I didn't really make a question out of that. I just wanted to highlight a point that you brought up there. So yeah, there is, how do you do that? It's not, there's no quick silver bullet solution.
No.
There's no checklist, there's no mantra, there's no book you're going to read.
No.
You need help, first of all, and it takes time. You need to work at it. It takes that constant work that will help you get to the new level. So don't be lazy. Don't think that you can just reverse those overnight by listening to The Secret and doing your affirmations. You've got to work on these things. It's that inner work.
It's very important. The inner work has to happen, and the affirmations and all that other stuff is so critically important to really reframe our brains and reprogram the societal way that we've been conditioned to be negative, cynical, and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that is so critically important. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, specifically in the coaching market too, once, they get into it for the service and they get in and they want to help, and then they realize, oh crap, I'm a salesperson. I got to have these sales conversations. And there's this like thing that happens to them energetically where they become very deflated and they realize it's not all roses and sunshine and lifestyle Facebook posts and stuff like that. Like, it's not just I built a program and now they will come. They actually have to do the work that they kind of want to do. So I extend to everyone out there, and it's a big bandwagon of mine. If this is you, as you're listening to this and you're having this moment of like gulp realization and you kind of want to go hold your hair back over the toilet, like do what you got to do. Don't be afraid to get a job. Go back and do a part-time job. Go take a job. Go get a W-2 while you realize that, okay, I'm going to have this business. My business is right. It's going to happen. And if I want to do it in a way that's a little bit gentler on myself, and I can really get good at having strong conversations early and often, and I know I need the support in this arena, but investing in a coach right now would be the end of my savings. That is so financially irresponsible. Don't do it. Go get a job in the meantime and allow that W-2 to go fund your business if that's what you want to do. Because women especially, we don't ask for funding. So go self-fund if that's what you want to do. But like, it is a big skill to learn. And we're not sitting here. I don't have a whole business around here because it's like, it's just nice and just think about it differently. Like, it's a big thing for it. It's for whatever reason comes oddly natural to me. And I'm good at one thing, and that's this. Right? Don't ask me to do anything else. I'm good at one thing, and it's this. And for the majority of the people out there, they're not. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But just like I can own that I'm really good at this thing, everyone else listening to this, you're really good at that one thing that you do. But you have to be really good at this if you want to make money doing that thing that you're good at.
Yep. There are layers of skill. So Michael Gerber in the E-Myth talks about just because you're a great hairdresser doesn't mean you know anything about running the business of a salon.
100%.
So you have to recognize that and say, I have this skill set. Now I need to learn the skills of running a successful business.
Yep.
And that's particularly relevant in coaching. Particularly in coaching, many coaches, they almost often, in the worst case scenario, they kind of reject that. They say, well, I'm not a business person. I don't have a business. I'm a coach. And it's the kiss of death, because until you embrace
all the time, because
until you embrace that you have to develop and learn those skills, that's critical. So, and
an interesting energetic thing happens about getting the job or doing something to supplement your business income, because there's such shame around it. Like, oh, you got a job, like your business isn't working out. Nobody cares. Nobody's thinking that, first of all. But an interesting energetic thing happens is that when you allow the flow of money in and you take the fear away from your business and the conversations, you start having more conversations because you're not afraid to. You're not requiring those conversations to feed you. And you actually start closing people because you're not walking around reeking of desperation, needy energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a very fascinating thing that happens.
And that critical piece there, that word you just used, needy, is that we need to recognize where that line is, where our needs are being met. Because if we're at a level below that, if, as you say, if you're struggling and you're not even meeting your needs, so you're not able to pay the rent, you're not able to feed yourself or your family or whatever, then your needs aren't being met. There's no way you can move beyond that and become values driven, which is what you need in order to create a successful business. So yeah, you have to get to that level. The other mistake some people make is they move that needs line too, is they say, and this actually happens a lot, particularly in our 1% place of the world where we live is many people think, well, once I have, that bigger house, once I have that extra special computer, once I have that, then those are needs. I need to have that, or I need to have that third car in order, and therefore they delay. So it's finding that, getting real and finding out where you are. So if you're below that needs met level, really identifying what are needs and wants. If you're below meeting your needs, you need to do whatever it takes to meet your needs, because you'll never move beyond that.
Correct.
But then also recognizing, do I keep pushing that threshold and therefore delaying making a commitment to getting what I want?
Right. And where are you energetically holding yourself back? Because here's the reality from a service perspective. If we're holding ourselves back, we are denying other people the opportunity to be served and saved by us and our gift and our talent. And with all due respect to anyone that resonates with, shame on you.
That's a beautiful bet. And we're well over now. So on that note, we need to wrap up. I will, one more little housekeeping thing. When you gave that link, I know I jumped on it. I think a lot of people were excited about your whole conversation creation challenge.
Yeah.
So remind us again, that's up and running. I unless I typed it in wrong, it directs to your Facebook group.
Yep, it should.
Okay, good. Okay, so if you do that, if you put in that URL, whoever's listening, you'll go to the Facebook group, and then you'll be joining Liz's Facebook group. Don't worry, you'll be safe there. She's not going to go and pitch you on a whole bunch of stuff or be counter to the whole message here. So go there and get on the conversation creation challenge, because I think it's a brilliant idea. And I'm in there. I've filled out the form. I'm ready to go. So loving that, looking forward to it.
I saw in the welcome section, there's like units they should go through, like so there's some videos and stuff like that. So yeah. So I just wanted to confirm that, and just so that everybody knew that that's where you'll be going and what you'll be seeing. And Liz, thanks so much. This was just fantastic. I can't wait to share the replay with people who weren't here. And I will shut my mouth now and turn it over to Jamie. Wrap it up. I did put up our offer for, as I promised in the beginning, our upscale success strategies group. We have a membership program, so click on that button. It says 1 free month. It's a big red button with white letters, and click on that, and it'll take you, and you can take a look at what's in there, and you'll get tons of valuable resources for your business. So I did not go too deep into that, but I did want to honor my promise to put that up. So
definitely. And we invite you to jump in and dig and steal and borrow and just gobble up as much as you can in 1 month. And we hope that in the process of doing that, you'll want to stick around and be with us. Yeah,
absolutely. And we do these calls every month. So we're look forward to the next one. Liz, totally enlightening. You have served us in such great ways. I know for me, and I know we're wrapping up, but that 80-15 thing, 80-15-5.
Yep.
Game changer for me. And I'll be at work on some things this weekend to shift that whole thing, because I have it just the opposite. And it's really confronting me right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's gonna, I mean, it's gonna, like you said, game changer. It's gonna be a holy shift for you, for sure. Yeah. I can't wait to talk about it after.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks again, Liz.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.